the twin sons of Kepler. 7 burned overhead as the creature fell from the sky like a dying star. SX then hit the ground hard, his massive body carving a trench through the dusty plaza. His silver-tipped wings folded at unnatural angles, and blue blood pooled beneath his cracked scales. The Draken warrior tried to lift his head, but pain shot through every nerve. His vision blurred as shapes began to gather around him. The marketplace had been busy moments before. Now everything stopped. Vendors abandoned their stalls. Children were pulled behind their parents. Everyone stared at the fallen dragon. Mayachin pressed her face against the window of her family's small shop, her breath fogging the glass. She was 12 years old, with dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail and dirt still under her fingernails from her morning chores. Her heart hammered in her chest as she recognized those wings. Those silver-tipped wings that had covered her body just 3 weeks ago when acid had sprayed through the air. Maya! Get away from the window. Her father called from a back room. Robert Chin was organizing medical supplies, preparing for whatever chaos might come. He hadn't seen what his daughter had seen. He didn't know. In the plaza, the crowd grew larger. The Chitauri came first, their insect bodies clicking with excitement as their compound eyes reflected the fallen dragon. Their translator boxes crackled with harsh words. A Draken. Here. Helpless. The lumens arrived next, their crystalline bodies refracting the sunlight into rainbow patterns across the ground. They were usually peaceful, but even they harbored resentment. The Draken Empire had claimed 3 of their mining worlds last year. The Sorok merchant Crixtalk pushed to the front of the crowd. He was large for his species, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that burned with old hatred. His family's trading ships had been destroyed in Draken territory. 15 of his clan had died. He bent down and picked up a rock from the plaza floor. For the innocent, he hissed, weighing the stone in his clawed hand. SX then's golden eyes tracked the movement. He understood what was coming. In his culture, a warrior accepted death with dignity, but something in him refused to close his eyes. Not here, not in this place where the small one lived. He had promised himself he would see her safe, see her thriving in this colony, even if only from a distance. The first stone struck his shoulder. It wasn't large, thrown by a young Chitauri who had lost a parent to Draken raids. The impact barely registered against SX then's armored hide, but the symbolism cut deeper than any blade. More stones followed, a chunk of concrete, a piece of metal pipe. The crowd's anger built like a storm, each species adding their grievances to the growing violence. The Draken Empire had wronged so many. Here was one of their mighty warriors, brought low. Here was justice within reach. Maya's hands balled into fists against the window. She watched a stone strike SX then's head, saw him flinch, saw blue blood drip from a cut above his eye. That same eye that had looked at her with such gentleness in the canyon. That same gentle look that had calmed her terror when the rift crawlers surrounded her. "They're going to kill him," she whispered. Her father's voice came again, more urgent now. "Maya," I said, "get away from." But she wasn't listening anymore. Her hand found the door handle. "He saved me," she said, so quietly that no one could hear. "He saved my life." Outside, Crixtalk raised a larger stone above his head. It was heavy, pointed. This one would do real damage. The crowd chanted in a dozen different languages, united in their anger. Some part of them knew this was wrong, that mob justice always tasted bitter afterward, but rage made people forget such things. SX then closed his eyes. He thought of his homeworld, of mountains that touched the stars. He thought of his flight brothers, warriors who would sing of his deeds. And he thought of the small human child with brave eyes who had thanked him in broken Draken before he left her at the colony's edge. For the fallen, Crixtalk bellowed, preparing to bring the stone down on the dragon's skull. The shop door burst open with a bang that echoed across the plaza. A small figure ran into the sunlight, her voice cracking with fear and fury, but carrying clear across the sudden silence. "Stop." Every head turned. Every hand froze. The stone remained raised but did not fall. Mayachin stood trembling in the plaza dust, her small human frame dwarfed by the aliens around her, facing down a mob that could crush her without thought. He saved my life. The crowd's angry voices faded as Maya's words hung in the air. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Crickstalk lowered his stone slightly, his yellow eyes narrowing at the small human girl, who dared interrupt their justice. "What did you say, child?" His voice was dangerous and quiet. Maya's legs felt like water, but she forced herself to take another step forward. Her mind flew back 3 weeks to the day that had changed everything. She had been stupid that day. She knew it even then. Her parents had told her 100 times never to leave the colony safe zone, but the rare crystals she needed for her school project only grew in the deep canyons. Just a quick trip, she had told herself. In and out before anyone noticed. The canyon walls had been beautiful, striped with orange and purple layers of ancient rock. Maya had filled her collection bag quickly, humming to herself as the twin suns warmed her back. She hadn't heard them approaching until it was too late. The rift crawlers came from 3 directions at once. 6-legged nightmares with bodies like armored centipedes and mandibles that dripped yellow acid. Their chittering filled the canyon, echoing off the walls until Maya couldn't tell which direction the sounds came from. She had pressed her back against the rock wall, her collection bag falling forgotten to the ground. 7 of them. She counted 7 sets of black eyes reflecting her terrified face. The closest one reared up, acid dripping from its mouth onto the ground where it sizzled and smoked. Maya had screamed then, a sound that came from deep in her chest, raw and primal. That was when the shadow passed overhead. SX then had descended like thunder given form. His roar shook loose rocks from the canyon walls. His first breath of fire turned 2 rift crawlers into smoking husks before they could react. He crashed into the ground between Maya and the remaining creatures, his tail whipping around to smash another against the rocks. The battle had been terrible and beautiful. The dragon moved with speed that seemed impossible for something so large. His claws tore through armored shells. His teeth crunched through exoskeletons. But the rift crawlers fought back with desperate fury. Their acid sprayed everywhere, hitting rock, hitting dirt, hitting scales. One of them had lunged past SXN's guard, its mandibles reaching for Maya's throat. She had frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Then a massive wing had swept down, covering her completely in silver and blue scales. She heard the acid hit, heard SXN's grunt of pain, smelled burning flesh. But not a drop touched her. When the wing lifted, all the rift crawlers were dead or dying. SXN stood over her, breathing hard. Blue blood dripped from a dozen wounds. The worst was a deep gash along his left shoulder, where acid had eaten through his scales down to muscle. Even now, standing in the plaza, Maya could see that same scar on his body. The dragon had looked down at her with golden eyes that held intelligence and something else. Something gentle. He could have left then. He should have left. The Draken and humans had no alliance, no treaty. She was nothing to him. Instead, he had extended one massive claw toward her, palm up. His voice had been deep, rumbling like distant thunder, but the words and standard were careful and slow. Small one safe now. Maya had climbed onto his claw with trembling hands. He had lifted her as gently as if she were made of glass and placed her on his broad back between his wings. The flight back had lasted only minutes, but she remembered every second. The wind in her hair, the ground far below, and the steady rhythm of his wing beats. He had set her down at the colony's edge, just outside human territory. He respected their boundaries even then. She had wanted to say thank you in his language, had practiced the words her translator had given her. Kefmar, she had tried. He had made a sound like warm laughter. Close enough. Small one. Then he had launched himself back into the sky, leaving her safe at home. A sharp voice brought Maya crashing back to present. You lie. Crickstalk's words cut through her memory. You lie to save this monster. Maya's hands clenched into fists at her sides. I'm not lying. Her voice was stronger now, steadier. She pointed at SXN's shoulder. Look at his scar. Left shoulder. Acid burn. 3 weeks old. He got it saving me from rift crawlers in the southern canyons. She rolled up her right sleeve, showing a patch of scarred skin on her forearm. This is where 1 drop got past him. 1 drop. He took the rest on his wing. SX then's massive head lifted slightly. His golden eyes focused on the small figure standing before the mob. Recognition flickered across his draconic features. Small one, his voice was weak, thick with pain, but it carried across the silent plaza. "You here?" The plaza fell into a strange silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Maya stood between the wounded dragon and the angry mob, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Crickstalk's yellow eyes moved from the girl to the dragon and back again. His scaled face twisted with doubt, but anger still burned there. He dropped a large stone, but picked up another, smaller one. He tossed it from hand to hand, thinking, "A pretty story, human child," he said slowly. "But we only have your word, a child's word. Perhaps you are confused. Perhaps you dreamed this rescue and now believe it real." Maya's face flushed red. "I know what happened to me." A Chitauri stepped forward, its translator box crackling. "The Draken are conquerors. They take what they want. They show no mercy. This one is the same as all the others." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Several aliens nodded or made gestures of support in their own ways. The mob's anger was building again, like a fire that had been briefly dampened but not extinguished. SX then tried to rise but collapsed back onto his side. His breathing was labored, each breath accompanied by a wheeze that suggested broken ribs. Blue blood continued to pool beneath him. His golden eyes found Maya's face and stayed there. "Small one should not be here," he managed to say. "Not safe for you." "It's not safe for you either," Maya shot back. Her voice cracked with emotion. "And you came for me anyway." Crickstalk took a step closer to Maya. He towered over her, his bulk 3 times her size. "Move aside, child. This does not concern humans. This is justice for crimes committed by his kind. He didn't commit any crimes." Maya's voice rose high and fierce. "He saved my life when he didn't have to. He could have flown past that canyon. He could have ignored my screams. But he didn't. So you say..." Another voice called from the crowd. A lumen this time, her crystalline body shimmering with agitation. "But where is your proof? Show us proof, human child, or move aside." Maya's mind raced. Proof. What proof did she have? The burn on her arm could have come from anywhere. The scar on SX then's shoulder could be from any battle. How could she prove something that had happened when she was alone with him in the wilderness? Then she remembered something. Something small but important. "His wing," she said suddenly, turned to point at SX then's left wing. The silver tips on his wings. They're not natural coloring. They're honor marks. Draken warriors earn them for acts of courage. She turned back to the crowd, speaking faster now. 3 weeks ago, his left wing only had 2 silver tips. I counted them during the flight back. Now look, there are 3. The crowd shifted, leaning to see. It was true. The left wing bore 3 silver markings, gleaming even to the dust and blood. "He earned another mark after he saved me," Maya continued. "That's how their honor system works. Someone saw. Someone in his fleet or his command knew what he did, and they gave him another mark." SX then made a sound deep in his chest, something between a growl and a rumble. Small one remembers. There was wonder in his voice. Small one sees. Crickstalk hesitated. This detail was too specific for a child to invent, too precise. But his hatred ran deep, carved into his heart by years of loss. "One act of mercy does not erase a species' sins," he hissed. "Maybe not," a new voice said firmly. Maya's father pushed through crowd. Robert Chun was not a large man, but he carried himself with the bearing of someone who had seen combat. His face was pale with fear for his daughter, but his jaw was set with determination. He moved to stand beside Maya, placing one hand on her shoulder. "Maybe one act doesn't erase everything," Robert continued, addressing the entire crowd now. "But my daughter doesn't lie. Not about something like this. Not ever." He looked down at SX then, studying the wounds with a medic's practiced eye. Then he did something that made the entire crowd gasp. He knelt beside the dragon. "On Earth," Robert said clearly, "we have a code. If someone saved your child's life, You owe them a debt that can never be fully repaid. This Draken saved my daughter when he had no reason to, when it cost him blood and pain. Robert looked up at Crickstalk, his eyes hard. I won't let him die in the street like a dog, not while I'm breathing. Crickstalk's hand tightened around his stone. You would protect a dragon? You humans are fools. Maybe, Robert agreed, but we're fools who pay our debts. He opened his medical kit and began cleaning the worst of SX Then's wounds. The mob watched in stunned silence as a human tended to their enemy. Robert Chen's hands moved quickly over SX Then's wounds. The dragon flinched at first, his body tensing as if expecting an attack. But Robert's touch was gentle, professional. He cleaned the gashes, applied antiseptic gel, and wrapped the worst injuries with medical bandages. This shoulder wound is old, Robert announced loudly, making sure everyone could hear. 3 weeks, maybe 4. The acid scarring pattern matches Rift Crawl saliva exactly. I've treated enough colonists to know. He traced the edges of the scar with his finger. And look here, the way the tissue healed. He didn't get medical attention right away. He flew with this injury, probably for several hours. That kind of pain would ground most creatures, but he kept going. Maya watched her father work, pride swelling in her chest. She hadn't even thought about proving the timeline of the injury. Leave it to her dad to think like a doctor even in a crisis. A sound came from the crowd. A woman's voice, hesitant and soft. The child speaks truth in her face. I see it. Maya turned to see Mrs. Patterson, her neighbor, standing at the edge of the mob. She was a teacher at the colony school, a woman who had taught hundreds of children, and claimed she could always spot a liar. I've known Maya since she arrived on this world, Mrs. Patterson continued, stepping forward. She's never been one for tall tales. If she says this dragon saved her life, then he did. Another human voice joined in. I remember 3 weeks ago. Maya came home late, scared out of her mind. Her mother was frantic. The girl had burns and scratches. It matches the timeline. Slowly, hesitantly, other humans began to emerge from shops and homes around the plaza. They didn't come with weapons. They came with water bottles, clean cloth, medical supplies. They gathered around Robert and Maya, forming a loose circle around the fallen dragon. A farmer named Chin Wei brought a container of clean water. For the wounded, he said simply, setting it beside Robert. An engineer offered industrial medical gel, the kind used for severe burns. This works on acid damage. Might help. SX Then's eyes widened as more humans approached. In his warrior's life, he had seen many things, but this bewildered him. Humans were weak by galactic standards, soft, short-lived, yet here they stood, placing themselves between him and harm. Why? The word rumbled from his chest. Why defend dragon? Maya knelt beside his massive head, looking directly into those golden eyes. Because you defended me. That's what good people do. They help each other. Crickstalk watched this display with growing fury. His claws dug into his palms. Foolish humans, you protect your enemy. The Draken would never do the same for you. Wouldn't they? Robert challenged, not looking up from his work. This one did. He saved my daughter when she was nothing to him. Just a strange alien child from a species he'd probably never met before. He pressed a bandage against a bleeding wound, and SX and hissed in pain but didn't pull away. That tells me something about his character. Maybe it doesn't tell me anything about all Draken, but it tells me about him. The crowd was fracturing now. Some aliens still looked angry, still wanted revenge, but others seemed uncertain. A few lumens had backed away, their crystalline faces reflecting confusion. Several Chitauri argued among themselves in clicking bursts of sound. Crickstalk saw his moment slipping away. The humans had disrupted the mob's unified anger. If he was going to act, it had to be now. He raised his weapon, a plasma pistol that had been hidden in his robes. The barrel pointed directly at SX Then's head. One dragon's mercy doesn't erase a species' crimes. My family died because of the Draken. 15 lives. This is justice. That's not justice. Maya shouted, that's revenge. Call what you want, child. He dies now. Crickstock's finger moved toward the trigger. Robert started to rise, knowing he was too slow, knowing the distance was too far. Maya didn't think. She didn't calculate or plan. She simply moved. Her small body threw itself across SX-Then's massive neck, her arms spreading as wide as they could go, try to cover him, trying to be his shield the way he had been hers. No! Her voice was fierce and unafraid. If you want to kill him, you have to go through me. The plaza went deathly silent. Crickstock's hand trembled. The weapon stayed pointed at the dragon. But now a 12-year-old girl's body blocked the shot. His eyes met hers across the distance. "Move," he said, his voice shaking with rage and something else. Something that might have been shame. "Move, or I'll move you." "No." Maya's voice was steady now. "I won't." Behind Crickstock, several humans stepped forward. They didn't have weapons, but their intent was clear. They stood with Maya. They stood with the dragon who had saved one of their own. Crickstock's weapon trembled in his hand. He stared at the small human girl who refused to move, her arms spread protectively over the dragon's neck. Behind her, more humans had gathered. They formed a wall of flesh between him and his target. "You would die for a dragon?" Crickstock asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. "You would throw away your life for a creature you barely know?" "He didn't barely know me when he saved my life," Maya answered. "He saw someone in danger, and he helped. That's all that mattered to him." Something shifted beneath Maya. SX-Then was moving, pulling himself up despite his injuries. His muscles strained, his wings scraped against the ground, but slowly, impossibly, the massive dragon rose. He positioned his body over Maya, shielding her just as he had in the canyon. Blue blood dripped onto the dust around them, but he stood firm. When he spoke, his voice was no longer weak. It rolled across the plaza like thunder. "You want dragon blood? Take mine." His golden eyes blazed with defiance. "But small one is sacred, protected. You will not touch her." Robert tried to pull his daughter away, but Maya held on to SX-Then's scales. "Dad, no. I'm not leaving him." The standoff held for a long moment. The entire colony seemed to be watching now. Faces appeared in windows. People gathered at the edges of the plaza. The air felt electric, charged with tension that could break into violence at any second. Then another voice cut through the silence, this one mechanical and amplified. "What is happening here?" The crowd parted as crystalline leader Vexata approached. She was the colony's governor, a lumen whose body refracted light into rainbow patterns. Her presence commanded immediate respect. Behind her walked two security officers, their weapons drawn, but pointed at the ground. "Governor," Crickstock said quickly, lowering his weapon slightly, "we found a Draken warrior. We were administering justice." "Justice?" Vexata's crystalline face turned toward him. "It looks like you were about to murder someone in my plaza, in front of witnesses, in front of a child." She moved closer to SX-Then, examining him carefully. Her eyes took in the wounds, the blood. The humans clustered protectively around him. Then she looked at Maya. "Child, tell me what happened." "All of it." Maya did. She told the story from beginning to end. The canyon, the rift crawlers, the rescue. She showed her scars. She pointed to SX-Then's wounds. She spoke clearly and honestly, her voice never wavering. When she finished, Vexata stood silent for a long moment. "This complicates matters," the governor finally said. "If we kill a Draken warrior on our soil, their empire will see it as an act of war. They will come for revenge. But this warrior saved one of our colonists. That creates an obligation." "He's not one of our colonists," Crickstock protested. "He saved a human." "Humans are citizens of this colony," Vexata replied sharply. "What happens to them is my concern." She turned to SX-Then. "Dragon warrior, you saved this child's life. Is this true?" SX-Then nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Maya. Small one showed courage. "Face death without running. Worthy of protection." "What is your name?" "SX-N, First Wing of the Northern Fleet." "And what do your people call someone who shows courage beyond their size?" "Someone who earns protection." SX-Then's eyes widened slightly. He looked down at Maya with something like wonder. Then he spoke a word in his own language, deep and resonant. Ketar. Translate, Vexata commanded. It means brave heart, small warrior, one who acts with honor when dishonor would be easier. Essex then's voice grew stronger. In my culture, Ketenar is highest honor. This small one has it. He lowered his massive head until his snout was level with Maya's face. Before my ancestors, before the sky and stars, I name you Ketenar. You are under my protection. Always. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She reached out and touched the scales gently. Thank you for saving me. Thank you, Essex then rumbled, for saving me. Vexata made a decision. Essex then of the Northern Fleet, you may recover in the human quarter of our colony. When you are healed, you must leave Kepler 7. But this day will be recorded, the day a dragon and a human showed us all what honor truly means. She turned to the crowd. This gathering is over. Return to your homes. Anyone who touches his dragon will answer to me personally. The mob dispersed slowly, reluctantly. Crickstalk left last, his face twisted with conflicting emotions. But he left. Robert and several other humans helped SX then to a large storage building that could accommodate his size. They brought medical supplies, food, water. Maya stayed by his side, talking to him, keeping him company. Over the next weeks, something strange happened. The story spread through the colony, then through the FTL communication networks. A human child defending a dragon warrior. A dragon naming a human as Ketenar. It was unprecedented. When SX then finally healed and prepared to leave, half the colony came to see him off. He spread his wings, magnificent and whole once more, and looked down at Maya one last time. If ever you need me, small one, call my name to the sky. I will come. Then he launched himself upward, circling once before flying toward the stars. 6 months later, raiders attacked Kepler 7. The colony's defenses began to fail. People prepared for the worst. Then 3 Draken warships appeared in orbit. SX then's voice boomed across every communication channel in the colony. We protect Ketenar. We protect her people. The raiders fled. Maya stood in the plaza where it all began, watching the Draken ships patrol overhead. Her father stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. You changed the galaxy, little one, he said softly. Maya smiled. No, Dad. SX then. And I just showed it what was already possible. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to do the right thing, even when it's scary. Above them, a dragon circled, keeping watch over the small one with a brave heart.